When you walk into an interview, it's almost guaranteed that the first question that they will ask you is, tell me about yourself, or any other variation of that question. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first heard that question, I would often buckle up and tend to ramble on and on and on about stuff that was kind of irrelevant and lose interest of the person on the other side of the table. Well, what if I told you that there is an easy way to approach this question? That with a little bit of practice, you'll soon be on your path to conquering this question every single time and deciding the fate for the rest of your interview. Hey everyone, my name is Yusuf Khan and I'm a fourth year student at the Schulich School of Business at York University, specializing and working in marketing and operations. Thank you so much for tuning into my very first YouTube video on this channel, and I look forward to giving you some of the advice that I have learned over the last 4 years in university. Let's dive right in. The best way to approach this question is to start off by talking about your present, then briefly mentioning your past, and ending off with the future. Using this simple framework with a little bit of practice will allow you to conquer any interview that you walk in and will make sure to create a good impression in the mind of the interviewer. The first part of answering this question is to start off by talking about the present. Now, in this part, you'll introduce yourself by your full name and mention and talk about what you're currently doing. It could be that you're a student, so talk about what year you're in or what you're specializing in. And if you're currently working, you talk about your current role and something that you've done that has been interesting in the past. So once again, in a university context, I always like to mention that I'm passionate about giving back to my community at school. So over the past couple of years, I've been heavily involved with student council. An example of how I approach the first part of this question is, hi, my name is Yusuf Khan and I'm a fourth year student at York University Schulich School of Business. I'm specializing in marketing and operations, and throughout my university experience, I've been very passionate about mentorship. This can be seen through my involvement in various school clubs, most notably through the Undergraduate Business Society, which is Schulich's student council. On this club, I served as the VP of Academics and the second year rep, and through these roles, I really had a unique opportunity to give back to students through organizing case competitions and running the school yearbook. The next portion of the strategy would be to talk about your past. Now, I don't mean like give your entire life story and talk about where you're from, what everything you've done in the past, but a very brief overview of what you've been up to in the last couple of years. For example, you could talk about some of the past internships you did or something you've accomplished in the past that you're very proud about and that really sets you apart. Another cool way to differentiate yourself in this part is to talk about any unique or cool life experience you've had that you feel that a lot of people would have and that really adds value to who you are and is something that you bring to the table. Something I like to mention in this past is that I actually grew up internationally for 14 years in Saudi Arabia and went to an international school. And what I say is that this opportunity has led me to interact with a wide variety of different cultures and really shaped who I am today. Doing this not only makes sure that you stand out, but it also paves way for the interview to ask you a question, or who knows who you might meet, and maybe an interviewer or someone on the panel has a similar experience to you, and it allows you to build that relationship and build a sense of personalization when talking to the interviewer. So when talking about the past, this is what I would say. Now, when it comes to what I've been up to for the last couple of years, well, I most recently interned at Bell over the summer in their marketing and operations program, through which I really got a unique perspective onto the telecommunications industry and got to work with a variety of unique and interesting individuals on consulting cases within the technology space. Before that, I was in service roles at York University's admission services as well as at Schulich's alumni relations department. On a more personal note, I actually grew up internationally in Saudi Arabia and lived there for 14 years. This was a very unique opportunity for me as it really helped pave who I am today, and it contributes to my ability to be able to talk to people from a variety of different cultures. I love talking to people, building new relationships, and it's something I bring with me wherever I go. Now, this is the final part of this framework, and make sure that you really nail down a good overview of who you are, what you stand for, and what you hope to accomplish in the future. Some of the things that you want to talk about here are your short-term and long-term goals, why you're here in the first place, and why you really want to work at the company. You could talk about how you're looking to pursue a career in blank industry, and over the next couple of years want to pursue a master's and specialize in a certain field. You can also mention that by working within the role that you're applying for, you'll be able to break into the X industry and apply a lot of the knowledge that you've been learning over the past couple of years and apply it in a practical environment. You can also mention that you always look for challenges and unique opportunities, and this is something that you really want to do in order to grow yourself both personally and professionally. Remember that whatever you say here should ultimately in some way tie back to the company and the position that you're applying for. What I would say here is that looking ahead into the next couple of years, I really hope to work at this position within this company in order to break into the telecommunications industry. As I've mentioned earlier, I have a strong passion for this industry, and I believe that what I've learned over the past couple of years in the BBA program has provided me with a lot of the theoretical knowledge, and now I'm ready to take that and apply it in a more practical environment. In the next couple of years, I see myself working up to a managerial position, as well as finding a niche that I want to specialize in, and potentially pursuing a specialized master's or an MBA degree. Now that we've talked about some of the basics of the framework, let's dive into some important considerations. To start off, here are some things not to do. Don't just sit there and recap your resume. The fact that you have an interview means that they've already looked through your resume, and more often than not, the interviewer has their resume with them, if you haven't given it to them already. So make sure that what you're saying over here really brings out your personality, and make sure that you're confident and bring who you are into this room. Another important thing is don't share your entire life story. So there's a fine balance between sharing too much and too little. And I know it's hard to figure out what that balance is, but honestly, through more practice and through really honing yourself, maybe even record yourself, find out what that is for you. The third thing is don't stretch it out for too long. No one wants to hear to a very long, boring introduction. So make sure that you're always reading and looking at your interviewers and see what their body language is telling you. If they're engaged, if they're sitting in and listening to you, then that means, okay, you're doing a good job. But if they're playing with their pen, looking at their phone, making notes, or just kind of like laid back, then that means that maybe it's time you wrap it up and move on to the rest of the interview. Another thing that will help you answer this question is to understand why it's being asked in the first place. There's a lot of different theories out there as to why it's being asked, but here's my 2 cents and my personal perspective onto why it's being asked. Well, I think the reason it's being asked is to really judge your presentation skills and see how you're able to sell yourself. In business contexts and business situations, you're often put into an environment where you have to talk to someone very quickly and make that first impression, whether it be with a client, whether it be with a coworker, or anyone, as a matter of fact. Therefore, if you know that, then you know that it's important to be polished, to be ready, to be confident, and right off the bat have that energy that you bring into the room. Additionally, it also looks at the ability for you to sell yourself. Yes, you can sell yourself on a piece of paper, but when it comes to real world situations, when you're put into a high pressure environment, such as an interview, do you buckle up or do you take that as fuel and power through? To recap, the best way to answer the question, tell me about yourself, from my personal experience, is to start off by talking about the present, briefly touching on the past, and ending off with the future. You should really look at this question as an opportunity and as something that's basically been given to you. You know it's going to be asked. It's asked in every interview. It could be asked in a variety of different ways where someone's just like, oh, maybe you want to talk about yourself a little bit. Like, I'd like to know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Whatever they say, it's essentially the same question. So going into an interview, you know exactly what the first question will be. And that means you have the opportunity to really take control of the room and guide the interview in any way that you seem fit. So walk into there prepared with confidence and know what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and ensure that you're able to sell yourself and present yourself confidently. Now, I hope that I was able to provide you some guidance on how to answer this question. And with a little bit of practice, like I said earlier, you'll soon be on your way to tackling this question. If you enjoyed watching this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and press the notification icon at the bottom. I'd really appreciate your support. I'm looking forward to making more videos about business, presentation skills, case competitions, business cases, and more. If you have any suggestions for any content you'd like, make sure to mention it in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.